This is an interview on the 15th of April 2006 with Private William George Cumming, V39078, VX132362, 39th Battalion, E Company, 20 Platoon.
Yes.
First of all, Bill, how did you join the Army?
We were called up, universal trainees. We were called up, up to 12, yeah.
How old were you at the time?
Around about 19, I think, at the time. I'm not quite sure. It'd be about 19, 20 years. 19, 20, maybe 20.
So you were a part-timer?
Then. Then we did 3 months training. Then we came back to work.
And what battalion was that with?
46th Battalion.
And where were you based?
Well, in Lancock Street, that was the headquarters of 46th Battalion. Barracks in Lancock Street, Brighton.
Yes. And where did they send you to do your training with
at
the
Travel?
What was the camp like up there?
Oh, quite good, not too bad. Full of in the tents, but it was all right. Yes, it was good. It could, well, you know, as good as you'd get then.
So you're in the 46th Battalion, and then what happened?
For 3 months.
For 3 months.
So then we was discharged, not discharged, but we were discharged from camp, and we then went back to normal work. And every so often we had to report to the drill hall and do drill and so forth at Lancock Street in Brighton. But we weren't permanently, you know, to come home. And then again in 41 we were called up in around about May, June, I've forgotten the dates, and we were continuously then until the war finished.
Did you volunteer for the 39th Battalion?
Yes.
And why did you volunteer?
Oh, well, they said it was a chance to get away. We knew we were going to New Guinea. And I thought, oh, that'll be all right. We'll go to New Guinea. So we were there. They issued us with tropical uniforms, so grey, khaki, light stuff. We never ever wore them, I don't think, because we didn't get an opportunity to wear them. We went on leave and that was it.
Who were your friends from the 46th that went across with you to the 39th?
There was George Harrison, named Jackie Pallison, Ray, named Charles, he was a driver, Ray Burmester, Hosey, Doc Hosey. Oh, there was another one. I can't forget his name. He came from Franklin. There was quite a few. There was anyhow 7 or 8 or something like that. Gardner was there. He was a lieutenant in the 46. He went. And there was others from the rifle platoon. I don't remember now, but they were the few that I did remember.
What was the feeling amongst the boys?
Oh, they were quite happy. They were very happy. You know, there was no ill feeling. It was quite happy about it. Yeah.
And what do you remember about the camp at Darley?
Oh, it was a better camp because instead of having tents, we were in huts there. From Travel, we went to Darley, was it? Oh,
Darley. When you went to Darley.
When we went to Darley, we were in huts. Yeah, it was quite good. It was once we got sorted out and put in the proper NE company and arranged with our whatever platoon we were in. It was quite good. Quite good. And that was, I think we were about November we were there, yes, not quite. I think it was in November we formed there, after all our needles and things like that they were giving us, yeah.
What do you remember about the training?
Well, we trained with the machine gunners, and it was similar to what we were doing with the 46th Battalion, sighting guns, and they'd say, give you reference points and things like that, but it was simple. And then some of us who were driving trucks used to take out the mortar platoon and cart them around. But as a machine gunner, it was similar to what's normal, you know, machine gun procedure. And
how did you feel about the possibility of going overseas to defend Australia?
I don't think it was. I think we didn't think about it much. I thought it was quite all right, apparently, at the time. Yeah, we didn't think about it. War war had been declared by Japan on the 7th of December, and then it was pretty well told that we'd be, going soon. So we went to Port Moresby on Boxing Day.
Do you remember the train trip from Melbourne up to Sydney?
Yeah, we came. Yes, I did. I did. It was overnight sort of thing. Yeah, we left in the daytime and finished in the morning at Sydney. Went across on the ferry to the Aquitania.
Mm-hmm. And what were your thoughts when you saw the Aquitania in the port there?
I don't think I didn't have any thoughts about it. I knew we were going somewhere and that was it, sort of thing. We were given a task on top of the deck that would be manning guns or machine guns or things on deck, just in case of any problems or anything like that. And we spent, I think, I don't know how many, 2 or 3 days on a couple of days on the Aquitania. We left in Boxing Day. We left at Boxing Day, Darley, and the next morning we were in Sydney. And I don't know how many days we spent in Sydney Harbour. It'd be a day at least, a couple of days maybe. I've forgotten now. But anyhow, the Queen Mary was in there too.
Yes.
At the same time.
Do you remember seeing that?
Yeah, we saw that.
It probably was your first trip out of Victoria.
Well, it's not my first trip, but it was first trip with the army, yes.
Yeah, so you had been to Sydney before?
No, I hadn't been to Sydney, but I was born in New South Wales.
Oh, right. Where were you born?
Balranald, over the border, yeah.
And then the family moved down to Melbourne?
No.
Well, you came
I
down.
just came to Melbourne. My father was a pioneer in Victoria on the border, Swan Hill, Pine Hill, yeah.
So why did you come down to Victoria?
Oh, I thought better. Well, I thought I'd get a better job sort of thing. Yeah, I was working on a farm.
You're working on a farm?
Yes.
Yeah. What sort of work were you doing?
Farming.
Just farming.
Yeah.
Vegetables or
no, wheat,
cattle? Sheep,
wheat and sheep, and sowing and ploughing and general farm work.
And where was that at?
Tooleybuck.
That's up on the Murray somewhere.
On the Murray, yeah, on the Murray. Pineville is a mile from the Murray. Atherton, Victorian side. Tooleybuck's on New South Wales side. So
you're actually at Tooleybuck when you were called up?
I wasn't called up. I was in Melbourne. I returned to Melbourne in 1939. That's when I was called up in 1940. Right. That's how I come to be in Brighton. Right. I was at St Kilda at the moment. Elwood, I suppose you'd call it.
Yeah. What do you remember about the voyage on the Aquitania?
Very calm. It was a very calm waters, very perfect Pacific, it was as it is, very rough trip, lack of fresh water, of course. That wasn't.
And where did you sleep?
We slept on deck. On the deck.
That would have been pretty cramped.
Was cramped, yeah. Was cramped, but there was a lot of troops on
How
it.
many troops do you think there was roughly?
Oh, I think there was somewhere around about 5,000, I think. I'm not quite sure about that, but there was a lot of troops on it.
What did you do during the voyage? Do you remember? How did you keep yourselves amused?
Playing cards mostly, I suppose. Cards.
Do you remember a sports day they had on the boat?
No, but I remember a concert we had. Stan Chalice was the trumpet player. He was in the band. He played a good cornet. He was a good cornet player. Remember a concert we had? It was quite good, yeah.
Do you remember the Aquitania docking at Port Moresby?
Yes, I do. We're out in the harbour. We were sitting on waiting to go off. We waited a long time, really, and when the natives had come out and we were diving, when they were throwing money, and they wanted $2, so they used to wrap a penny up and put some silver paper on and throw it in, and they died for it. They soon found out they were
probably would have
native boys, yeah.
The first natives that you'd seen?
Well, they were, yes, they were. Yeah, they were.
And they would have paddled out in their canoes? Or...
Well, they had those lacquer toys, yeah, and they swimming around, the boat, yeah.
Do you remember when you disembarked from the ship? What was that like? How did you get ashore?
We were ferried across by little boats, I think from the boats on the Aquitania. We landed there and formed up. And as there was no trucks or anything to cart us along, they decided we had to walk. So we had to walk the 7 mile round with our kits, and it was hot, and you know what it's like up there. I don't know whether you do or not, but it's very humid and muggy. And we walked to the 7 mile round.
You would have been loaded up with all your equipment.
Loaded here with our rifles and kit and so forth. Yes.
What was the mood amongst the boys then?
They weren't very happy having to walk that far. It was so hot. And along the road you'd see a native and they'd say, how far? He says, 2 miles, Tabitha, 2 miles. It was the longest 2 mile I've ever been walked on. Yeah, they knew it was 2 miles, but it was 7 mile actually, to the 7 mile road.
And when you got at the 7 mile, what was there?
Nothing was there. We just, it was on a hill, and we went behind the hill into a little place there where we camped with our company. Had nothing. He couldn't sleep because of mosquitoes that eat you. Yeah.
Would have been a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it was. There was nothing there. It was rough. Yeah, nothing.
What happened the next day or maybe a day after? You remember a water pipe going past?
Well, we didn't have much water. As I said before, we put a hole in. Somebody put a hole in the pipe, so we had a good wash and that's and a tap with one tap between the town, but that wasn't enough. So they put a pick through the pipe. Had a spout going up. After that, anyhow, it was most of the time after that. Those who could drive a truck went into Port Moresby driving trucks, taking stuff away from the boats and ammunition and goodness knows what. And that was when after I got appendicitis and finished up in hospital.
So tell us the story how you got appendicitis. You'd only been there about 3 weeks.
That's all. That's all. And I got this pain, and I went to see the doctor, as I said to you, and with Pat MacDonald in the tent, and he was under close arrest because he popped the probat nostril. And then eventually, after seeing the doctor who took me down to the RAP, I was in with the tent, waiting to be sent to hospital if I was lucky to get there. And that was when I saw Mackenzie.
That's Alf Mackenzie.
Alf, yeah.
And what was he like?
He's a good fellow. He was a good fellow. Yeah, he was a real good bloke. He was going crook because he knew I was sick. He went crook. And he had a little RAP, so he got an ambulance and sent me down to Murray Barracks, and that's where I was operated on. And I was there until, I don't know when. I know I was there when the bombs started to fall on the 3rd of February.
That would have been a bit of a shock.
Well, that was.
You would have been laying in your stretcher.
I was laying in bed with all the mosquitoes around, and we had dysentery as well, you see.
And you wouldn't have been able to run for it.
Oh no, we got watered out of bed. As I was with another fellow, he said, "Oh, don't worry about that." He said, "There's only Wirraways flying around." And they weren't. They were jet planes, and they were bombing Port Moresby. And that's when they bombed the Port Moresby Hotel, as you remember. And the next day they had plenty of whiskey around the place. They robbed the place. Yeah. After I came out of hospital, I went to the convalescent camp, which was up around the 12 mile place, and Tommy Griggs was up there too, our ex-lieutenant from the 20 platoon, waiting to be transported somewhere. I don't know where he went to. And I was there for a little while, and it was on the Laloki River, and we were on one side, and the wheels and thing you had to go on the other side. Sometimes you'd walk through the river, or you'd be up to your waist in water, and other times you'd paddle across, just depends on how the rains come.
So how long were you there at the convalescing camp?
Oh, about a week, I suppose. It was a pretty rugged sort of a place. It wasn't a convalescent place. It was terrible. Anyhow, I went back then that's when I got to the carrier platoon. And I was in the carrier platoon, or transferred while I was in hospital from the E Company.
And where were they based at, the carrier platoon?
Just at the 7 mile road, there, just around there.
So what was your job then?
Well, I was a machine gunner there, and eventually I became a driver. But but mostly I was a machine gunner.
What did Port Moresby look like in those days?
Oh, it was quite a town. It was neat and tidy, but things like that. It was well organised because the white people were there at the time. The civilians were there, and it was well looked after, clean, tidy. We weren't much in it after, you didn't see much, but after the bombing, that was after the 3rd of February, everything was left to the military.
How often did you get bombed?
Oh, many times, many times. Not only that, we were strapped as well, Zeros would come over, strapped us.
You would have dug slit trenches?
We had a slit trench, yeah. We had a slit trench. But if the Zeros were there, we were out with their guns trying to shoot them down with the machine gun. Yeah.
The bombing raids continued for a while, and you didn't have much to defend yourselves.
Only our Vickers machine guns, and I think there was some Lewis guns. I don't know. We didn't have any Lewis guns, but we had the being a machine gunner, we were Vickers.
Do you remember there was a competition at one stage?
Digging trenches.
Digging trenches.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
We weren't in it actually, but some of the rifle companies were, and they. Well, I know about it. They got the prize was to come home on leave, and one of the sections, was it machine gunners or not? They won it anyhow, and they got leave. I forgot. Darky Hood's mob, I think Darky Hood. I think it was Darky Hood. I'm not quite sure. But anyhow, they won it, but we were not in it. We weren't in it.
I believe some of them never came back up to Moresby.
I heard of that. I don't know who they were, but I think that's right. I don't blame them. It was a terrible place.
What was your main job actually then? Were you just on the machine guns, or were you actually driving?
Well, with the carriers, we blazed trails. We blazed trails right throughout Port Moresby, from down to Tuppersley and up around the Irrigated Mission and to Bootless Bay and around the areas and right at the back, blazed trails. Pulled out flying footers from the drone, and the drone when they used to get bogged. And that happened very often, very soft, until the drone was properly fixed up here. They hadn't. It was done on metal strips. They had metal strips. The fortresses used to land.
Do you remember the American Negro work crews?
Yes, I do. I never forget. I couldn't believe it when remember them in the pictures, and then I couldn't. And they would talk just like that. That amused me. They were just the same. I remember they were a panic lot. I remember on one occasion, he said, one of the Negroes said, he said, when I see those bombs coming, you sure run for the woods. And when the little woods were little shrubs about this high at the end of the drone. Excuse me.
They were good workers, I believe.
Oh, they could work all right. They had all the equipment. They had terrific equipment. They would, build a drone in a few days. They built Ward's drone. That was 3 miles away, just behind Murray Barracks. And built, big for the planes to go into. Do
you remember when the Australian Kitty Hawks arrived?
Yes, we fired at them. 4 of them came over. We nearly shot them down. We shot Ruin too, I think. We hurt 2 and had to be repaired. They'd no sooner landed than a Jap wreck come over. And I went up and shot it down. No sooner just come over at dusk, just at sundown. Reconnaissance came over and they just went up and shot him down. But they were coming, they said the Kitty Hawks are coming tomorrow, tomorrow they'll be here. But they never came, and they were called Tomorrow Hawks. And the air raid warning was 3 shots. And when you heard the 3 shots, you manned your guns, because it was an air raid. So that's what happened with the Kitty Hawks. So when they did come, the 3 shots come, and we manned a gun. Of course, we had never seen a fighter plane, not only the Japanese Zeros, that's the only one we'd seen. And we fired at them. Of course, they were flying around for quite a while. And everybody fired at them right around the drone.
The pilots wouldn't have been too
Anyhow,
happy.
they eventually landed and they were still firing, but anyhow, the ceasefire came and stopped firing, luckily.
Who do you remember you shared your tent with at that time?
Yes, with Ian MacIver and a bloke called Eddie Dingle.
Who was the first one?
Ian MacIver.
Ian MacIver.
He came as a reinforcement. He was an AIF man. We had a section of AIF people reinforced us around about March, and he was one of those. But I was in a tent with a bloke called Eddie Dingle.
Was there 2 to a tent?
Well, there were 3 in that particular cone, yeah, 3. Bert Oliver was our lieutenant.
Yeah.
He was killed at the 2nd Battalion.
After a while, you moved out to Bootless Bay. Tell us about...
Well, we went to Bootless Bay just prior to the Coral Sea battle.
Yeah.
They sent us out there. We later towards tea time. Had to pack up and get it out to Bootless Bay as quickly as we could, which we did. And we mounted our guns on the hill at the time, up on top of the hill, which behind a big rock sort of thing. There was, spent the night there and expecting the Japs to be there in the morning, but they didn't turn up because we were lucky that the
Were you camped at the mission there?
No, we were at Bootless Bay, right on Bootless Bay. We didn't have a tent. We didn't have camp. We just lived on the ground. Didn't have a tent or anything like that because it was all rushed, you see. Had to get out there quickly.
And did you stay camped there for a couple of months? Or?
Oh, we were there for a while until everything quietened down. And then we went into a house that was there to live in, and then a few things came along. We had a camp there sort of thing. I remember one occasion we were out there beyond the hills there at Bootless. And the Japs, it was just a day or so after the battle of the Coral Sea, and the Japs were flying over. They were looking for a place to land because they were apparently planes off an aircraft carrier, and they had got lost, I think, and they flew over it. We didn't have any of our guns mounted. They were on the platforms out in the mango swamps, and we weren't manned them at the time. They flew over. We could have shot someone down. They're only flying at treetop level, but at that particular stage, yeah.
Did you remember doing any more training while you were out at Bootless Bay?
We didn't do any training. Very little training. Yeah.
How did you feel in your time at night?
Oh, I can't remember much. A lot of them played cards. They didn't have any lights in those days. They weren't allowed a light.
Do you remember getting letters from home?
Yeah, we got letters from home.
Parcels? Do you remember getting anything special?
Yeah, we used to get occasional parcels, cakes and things like that were sent by some people. Yes, we did. Oh, we got our mail all right when we were able to get it, of course. Then,
so where did you go from Bootless Bay?
We went back to Moresby. We went back to the Moresby area. And then what we did then, didn't do a great deal, and then eventually went down to Canasea.
And whereabouts is that?
That was about 40 miles west of Port Moresby. And you either had to go by plane or by ship, little boats, they had that small boat. We went by boat down past a place called Gona, around Gully Reach, it was called. Around there, we stayed there. There was an aerodrome down there, and there was a section of American troops down there, gunners, on the aerodrome, because it was a large, very flat country. There was a good aerodrome down there, and they were guarding that, and they sent us down there with the carriers expecting paratroops to be landed there. This was the time when the battle, when the Kokoda was on. They sent us down.
And what did you do while you were down there?
Well, we did a lot of patrolling and so forth like that, and making sure that we had, knew the area, things like that. And we eventually, when anything quietened down, we went into a house, lived in a house that would belong to the plantation owners.
That was pretty good.
Oh, that was great, yeah, big house. I didn't have a photo of that, but one of the Ian MacGyver's son, he had a photo of it, and he said, "Where was that photo taken?" And he didn't know, and no one was able to tell him, but I was able to tell him. I said that was at Canasea, in the house at Canasea, and there was we had over there. We had a lieutenant from the 53rd, and his carrier was there with us, and his driver and his batman there with us. I've forgotten the name of the lieutenant now. He was a 53rd Battalion lieutenant. Good, nice fellow, very nice fellow.
Was it a big camp there, or just a small?
Just a small camp, because
a couple of platoons, or
just a couple of sections of us, the carriers, and some of the Yanks. But they eventually went after the Battle of Kokoda was over and the Japs had retreated back to Buna. I think they went down to took over the drone at towards around about this side of Gona. Is it Papua? Yeah, that's it. Papua. Yeah, there. That's where they took over there. Went over there and took over that drone. But we stayed at Canasea, and we stayed there, and then went eventually back to Port Moresby, and then we would in Port Moresby for quite a while as a carrier group, and
probably over Christmas. You would have spent your first Christmas at Port Moresby.
Yeah, I was up there for 23 months before we got leave, and.
Were you based out around the 7 Mile again, or were you?
No, we were back more or less in
Murray Barracks.
No, around about the around about that area. Anyhow, in between Ward's-Drome and somewhere around about there. I can't remember much about it.
And what was your section called at that time?
We were called the 6th Division Carrier Group. It really wasn't the 6th Division, but it was expected the carrier group would be defence of Port Moresby. And
was that still under the 39th?
No, the 39th had gone home then. They'd been... So well, they went to Gona and Sanananda while we were at Canasea.
And they would have come home on leave, I think, about March.
When that campaign was finished, they brought them back to Port Moresby.
But you stayed?
And then sent them home. But we stayed there, and we stayed there for some months. I don't think I got home until about, I can tell you when I got home, when I landed in Melbourne, the 9th Division had landed at Salamoa and Lae. That's the day I came home from Port Moresby. I landed in Melbourne.
On your first leave?
On my first leave.
Yeah.
And from there, I had leave, and then I went back to the Tablelands and was put in the 6th Division Carrier Group, which was the division of and in the second section of the group, of the carrier group.
So you're in the second.
There were 3 battalions: 1st Battalion, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Battalion formed the 16th Brigade group, and I was in that second battalion group because most of our boys had joined the second battalion, and that's where I was put. And then when that broke up, I went down into the second battalion, into MG Company, which was MT Platoon, which was a platoon of the headquarter company and the second battalion.
Did you have any of your mates with you from the 39th still with you?
Yes, there was quite a lot. There was, there was Billy Stewart, Jimmy Williamson, Snowy Sedman.
And they would have been with you at Canasea?
No. But Ian MacGyver was, but he was in the rifle company in the second battalion, and so was Lindsay Sparks. He was in the second battalion and down at Canasea with us. He lost an arm at Jaguar.
Do you remember where you were when you heard that the 39th had been disbanded?
Yeah, we were in Port Moresby. No, it wasn't until we came back. Oh, we knew they had been disbanded, yeah, I think. If we were in Port, we'd be in Port Moresby. I don't know whether we knew or not, but anyhow, we didn't know. I don't think. I've forgotten now about that. I know when we got back, we knew, of course, they'd been disbanded and they'd been put in the second battalion. Some went to the 6th battalion, some went to the 7th battalion, and some went, I think, into the 36th.
Yes. What ship did you come home on?
I came home
On your
for
first
leave
leave?
on a Katoomba.
Katoomba.
Yeah.
And how much leave did you have?
I've forgotten now.
A couple of months?
No. Didn't give for about 14 days or something like that.
Is that all?
No, they didn't give us much, no.
And then you're sent up to the Tablelands?
Went back to the Tablelands.
And
with us, and I was in the carrier group of the 2nd Battalion. Yeah.
And where did you go from then on? Did you go back?
Well, we did a lot of you mean, well, we did what we call camp, a little bit of training around
That'd be
the area.
Up on the Tablelands?
Tablelands are various places, yes.
On Declan and
around that way. Yeah. We were camped at Herberton, Ravenshoe, around that area, Millamilla, so those places.
Yes.
And then from there we went across, and then we went on the Jane Addams to Itabiwiwe. That was the second battalion.
With the second.
Yeah.
And you would have seen some action there?
Yeah. No.
Enough.
Enough.
Who was your lieutenant with the second?
Well, we had a Lieutenant Coyle, good officer, good ex-original too.
By this time, would you have joined up with the AIF?
Yes, yeah, we joined up in Port Moresby prior to
going up the Kokoda campaign.
It was prior to the Sanananda campaign. Buna.
Were you asked to join up? Were you pressured to join up?
Yeah, we were asked to join up, so we joined up.
Yes.
Well, we were up there, so we may as well join up. Yeah. Jackie Spooner, myself, and a few of us joined up. Some of them didn't want to join.
No. Do you remember being called a choco by the...
Oh, we were often called chocos.
Yeah.
We were.
How did you take that?
Oh, it wasn't very nice. It wasn't very nice, but we just had to put up with it and bear it.
Did you try and get back at them?
No, didn't bother, because when I went into the division, the 6th Division carrier, with the straight from 39th to there, he was recognised as a choco, mainly by the chaps who had been overseas to Middle East, had never seen a shot fired, and came back again. Even the 6th Division fellows called them the tourists. They were been over there. And because we had a larger number than 80, we were chocos. But we had seen more action than they had, particularly the boys who went up on the track. They knew what war was all about, more so than some of those boys that never seen a shot fired. But the original 6th Division fella, he was fantastic. He treated you right. He was really good. And once you've been in action with the second, when we went up to Itabiwiwe, you were all one. Comradeship was terrific. After you'd done a job, after you'd been in action.
What did you remember about, you would have seen a fair bit of jungle. What do you remember about the jungle?
Plenty of jungle, yes, but all jungle. Not very nice.
How did you sleep and manage to get a sleep?
Well, I think you got used to it, being hardened to it. You had to get used to it. The mosquitoes
were you out on patrols or?
Yes, we were on the second battalion.
And the conditions there would have been pretty tough.
Yes, it was. It was hilly, just like...
Hot and tropical?
Yes. Well, we're up further north in Itabiwiwe, yeah.
And probably a fair bit of rain.
A lot of rain, yeah. Particularly around in the Moresby area, it'd be like this all day. Sunshine in the morning, and down come the rain in the wet season. Down it come in the afternoon. Irrespective of how good the morning was, it still rained. Thunder was terrific, very loud. Particularly Canasea, around those hills. A lot of natives down around Canasea. Plantation.
How did you get on with the natives?
Quite well, quite good, yes.
Did you ever share anything with them? smokes or food or?
Oh, you know, we'd give them cigarettes occasionally, but they didn't like our cigarettes. They'd rather their twist stuff.
It was a bit more powerful, I
I
think.
don't know how they could smoke it, but they did. They had that twist, yes.
So how long were you with the second?
From must have been the end of 43 until the end of the war, 15th of until the end of the war, and then after the end of the war they sent us down to Lake. We didn't have enough points to be discharged, so Billy Stewart and I from the second, we were sent down to along with some other boys from the rifle companies in the second battalion down to Lake, and we guarded POWs.
What sort of things did you do at WEWAC? Were you patrolling?
No, we were resting at WEWAC. When we finished and when we got at WEWAC, we had done our come through.
Yeah.
We advanced to WEWAC and captured WEWAC, and it's kind of a problem, you know,
perimeter.
Well, it was just on the top of a plateau sort of thing. Jutting out the scene, we were there. And we stayed there until a time came to go back into the hills again, and you had to. The Japs had made a timbered track across a big swamp into the hills, and they went back into the hills to fight, and it wasn't there very long in the war finished.
Was your job to go out and to seek them, or did you just more or less stay in WEWAC?
I stayed at WEWAC. I had trouble with my knee at the time, and I was left at WEWAC, but they went into the hills, and they were only there a couple of 3 weeks in the war finished.
How did you feel when you saw your first Japanese soldier?
Well, we shot him. That's what we did.
Were you on a patrol?
Yeah, I had a Bren gun. Yeah.
Were they heavily camouflaged?
These weren't. When we had first patrol, they were gathering food. We went to out on a patrol at a place called Yarrabos, which was a native garden. We went out. We had to walk through the jungle to it, and we would go up every morning patrolling. The Japs would be at one end and we were at the other end, so we'd shoot one another. Then we'd come back and camp. We were a bit fortunate because we were only there 3 or 4 days, and they called us back to battalion, and the second first took over. We were only a company, but a battalion, a whole company. We were only a platoon, and then the second first battalion took over from us, and they had a company went out there. The Japs got cunning, so they moved right down and attacked them first thing in the morning. And luckily for them, the artillery was able to got at them and hunted them out of that place. Yeah. That was at Canasea. It was not a very nice spot. Yeah.
Do you remember seeing
No, that was at Yarrabos. It was.
Do you remember seeing any Japanese snipers?
No, didn't see any snipers. No. I didn't. No.
Did you lose any friends in the 39th that were killed on the track?
Oh yes, those fellows from E Company, when I was in the E Company, yes. I lost some friends. Some were wounded. One bloke was bayoneted. Norm Whitehead, he was a signaller, he was bayoneted, but he got out of it. He came good.
He came good. He made it back after that.
Went back with the 36th Battalion. Oh yeah, lost a lot of mates, but it's unfortunate.
After the second, and was the war coming to an end? Where were you when the war ended?
At WEWAC.
At WEWAC.
At WEWAC.
And did you celebrate?
Oh, naturally, yeah, we were very pleased. I don't think we had anything to celebrate with, but we were very happy about it, yeah. I remember getting 2 bottles of beer just before we advanced into Wewak, before the advance came, the night of the morning, the night prior eve, before we moved into Wewak, moved towards Wewak. We were at Cape Wom, I think. Cape Wom, then we had to cross the river on that. I'm not quite sure what river it was now, but we had to cross this river, and we advanced into Wewak. It was quite a big campaign, the whole battalion, and they landed on the other side of Wewak around and kind of surround them, sort of thing. And they were in caves, Japs were in, and buried in Wewak. They dug caves into the side of the plateau, what's called the mountain. They were in caves.
How close did you actually get to them?
Oh, pretty close, and if they didn't come out, they used to put the fibre. If they wouldn't come out, so they put the flamethrower through it. That's set up. The caves were still there when we had when we were on top of Cape Wom. Some of the boys went down there to look at them, but I didn't bother. I didn't like the smell of it. So we stayed there until, or I stayed there until the end of the war. It was 15th of August, which didn't last long.
And how long did it take them to move you out once you heard the war was over?
Well, the battalion came back, and we set up a camp for the battalion down in between Wewak and Cape Wom, and it was from there. They sorted us out. Those who didn't have enough points were sent down to Lae, or Nadzab actually, to guard the Jap POWs that came in from the hills. And we were sent down there. Billy Stewart was amongst them. He and I was there, and there was others from the Rifle Mortal. Lysart was another one that came from the 2nd Battalion. There was quite a few. And we went down there on the Taruna and landed there, and we went to Nadzab and was out at Nadzab for some time.
And what was your job?
Well, guarding POWs.
You were actually guarding POWs. Yeah. How did you find that?
Well, they're pretty docile. As a matter of fact, they used to do our washing for us. We had them washing our clothes, sort of thing, and they were quite happy to do it. I remember the bloke, one Japanese, he was a Christian. He wanted to go to church with some of the boys. He's a Roman Catholic boy, and he wanted to go to church. I don't know whether they ever let him or not, but he was very docile. Anyway, they were quite pleased to walk Spinny Sully.
And how did the Australians treat them?
Well, I think we treated them all right, but we had a left. I've forgotten his name now. He was pretty harsh on them. He was harsh. He didn't.
He may have seen some tough things.
Anyhow, but they treated him pretty well. They overall they were pretty good. They treated him. Yeah.
And after Lae,
we went from Nadzab to Lae, and then from Lae we did the same sort of thing. I went into the office work. Don't know why, but I went there.
Clerical. Doing some clerical.
I don't know why.
That's a good
I wasn't a clerical man. I wasn't there anyhow. There, and then eventually I had a bad knee. I had trouble with my knee right through Wewak campaign, and I went to the hospital, and I was in hospital for some weeks, and then Sanananda came in, and I was sent home with a working wounded in around about the end of March or April or something like that. And then when I got home, I kept getting
malaria. Where did you go? Did you go to Sydney or Brisbane?
We landed in Sydney, to Maryland. Went to Maryland. We stayed there a few days, or I can't forget, but anyhow, stayed there, and then eventually went down to Bowdengilla, and then into Heidelberg.
Into the repack.
And then I was operated on with my knee. And when I was there, I kept getting malaria. And
I was going to say, did you get malaria?
And couldn't get, I'd sooner get out of hospital and I'd get malaria again and go back again. It wasn't until the 4th of July that I got out.
So were you discharged from the army from
But
Heidelberg?
Efrano from Royal Park.
From Royal Park.
Yes.
Yeah.
4th of July.
And how did you find getting back into normal civilian life?
I think it was strange because you were used to being told to do things. And, you lost a little of that initiative. And that had to come back, you do things and sort out things for yourself. And it took a while to get used to that. But once we got used to it, yes.
So what job did you take on after the war?
I went back to my old job with a bloke called in the iceworks. I was in there for quite a number of years.
In the city?
In Brighton. And then eventually went into the spare parts department of Austin Distributors. There I stayed in the spare parts department until I retired. I worked with Austin Distributors and then with Renault Persia.
What effect do you think your time in New Guinea had on you as a person?
Well, I think it took a lot of the youth away from us. Really. It's pretty tough, but I suppose it toughened us up, really. Mm.
And what do you think is important for the younger people today to remember about your contribution to the war?
Oh, I think respect, respect the old veterans, really, because they really saved Australia. Our initial battalion really did, because they stopped the Japanese from walking straight in. Hadn't been for those boys, they'd walked over us. They did a mighty job. Not me, but the other boys did. The boys of the battalion, the rifle boys, and rifle brigades, rifle battalions, rifle companies, they did a terrific job.
But you were still part of it, which is important.
Oh, well, I was part of the 39th Battalion, but I didn't get up to the Kokoda Track.
Well, Bill.
It was a wonderful experience, It was a wonderful experience. I suppose we'd do it all again if we had to.
Of course. Of course. On behalf of the 39th Battalion Historical Subcommittee, we'd like to thank you very much for your time and for this really interesting interview.
I hope it was, because I wasn't able to give you too much. I wasn't able to tell you much. But
that was great.
Yes.
Thank you.
My experience of it in here. Good, thanks.